a day that has changed our lives and will change our lives forever. Life has a way of lifing. And I'm sitting there like, nah, bro, this ain't happening. Like, this is not supposed to be happening to us, to her. There's nothing that I could do as her husband to fix this. And like, in that moment, I just felt so hopeless. It's scary. It is a very scary place to be in. But that unbelief does not take away from who I know God is. Welcome back to another episode of Whole, Healed, and Healthy. I hope the week has been great. I hope you've been blessed thus far. Man, I hope that you've been enjoying the season. You know, I've been enjoying it. It's been great to share where I'm at in my journey. I appreciate y'all, man. I hope and pray that you've been enjoying it. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate all the support, the likes, the subscribes, the shares, the comments, man, the text. You know, I really do appreciate that. And I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for allowing me into your life, into your space, into your jobs, wherever you may be listening at. Man, thank you for just giving me a small piece of the time in your life. I just always want to make sure that, you know, what we do over here, what I do here, that is adding value, that is just helping you along your healing journey. Welcome to episode 4 of Whole, Healed, and Healthy. This episode is the Unbelief episode. Yeah, this is probably going to be one of the hardest and most vulnerable and raw episodes I think that I've done thus far. You know, honestly, I really didn't even want to do it. Like, I'm not even ready to talk about it, but I know that there are things that we cannot shy away from and things that we need to talk about. You know, there's some dates in life that you will never forget. I think that there are dates like you would just never forget, like your birthday, your wedding anniversary, payday, of course. You never forget when payday is, your child's birthday, you know. And with those dates, a lot of those dates usually bring joy. It's usually associated with some kind of good feeling, you know, happiness, joy, you know, peace, calmness, which is good, right? Associated with good feelings. But on the flip side of that, man, there are also days that we wish we could forget. You know, I know dates of like, you know, a loved one who's gone on, maybe a bad accident that you've been in, you know, the day you lost your job, you know, dates that represent something that don't have necessarily good feelings connected to them. I had one of those dates, and that was the day that me and my wife, Randi, found out that she had breast cancer. Yeah, a day that has changed our lives and will change our lives forever. Even saying it out loud still doesn't feel right. It's not something that you think that you're going to have to endure in your life. It's not something that you think you'll ever have to say out loud until you actually do. So today I want to talk about that moment, you know, that we found out that news, all the emotions that went through my mind, the faith, the fear, and all the space in between. I do want to say this. I want y'all to know that Randi has given me the okay to share this because I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to talk about it. I definitely was not going to talk about it right now, but she has been really encouraging me. She was like, how can you have a podcast that deals with real life and that deals with your emotions and that deals with your feelings, especially about where you're at in life, and then you don't even talk about it? She was like, nah, bro, you got to talk about it because that's what your platform is based on. Your platform is about helping people deal with difficult situations. So this is a difficult situation, and I encourage you to talk about it. So shout out to Randi for just supporting me to share on my platform. But most importantly, man, it's about her and how we're going to be there to support her through this. And we know that God is a healer, and we believe in God for healing, total healing. And man, she's like just the most amazing woman in the world, man. Like, for real. I don't think I can even begin to put into words what she means to me, what she means to Avery, and just how much I love her and appreciate her. So Randi, shout out to you. You know, I love you, and we got your back. We gonna get through this. So again, there are dates in your life where you never forget things. You never forget what you were doing, what you were wearing, what time it was, where the sun was at, how the room may have been set up, you know, like you never forget that. And so we got that news, right? We got that news. And as she was sharing it with me, it's like everything just literally stopped. Like everything around me just like froze, like it just stopped, like time literally stopped. And I heard what she was saying, but at the same time, I'm like, man, no, I don't want to hear that. Like, I can't hear that. I don't hear that. Like, everything literally came to a sudden stop. And so I sat on the bed in total silence. And I'm like, man, what we're hearing, the news that we're getting, this can't be true. Because like I said, that there are things in life that you think that you'll never have to go through. And it's not like an arrogance thing. It's just like, man, like, you live healthy, you do the right things, you do all that you can do to put yourself in the best position to be healthy. But, life just lives, and that's the thing about it. Like, life has a way of lifing. And I'm sitting there like, nah, bro, this ain't happening. Like, this is not supposed to be happening to us, to her. I was in utter shock and literally utter disbelief. I'm like, no, this can't be right. And so the type of person that I am, I'm always looking like, well, how can I fix it? That's just the type of person that I am in life. If you come to me and you're sharing something and it seems to be a problem, I'm going to be like, okay, I hear your problem. I'm with you. I'm rocking with you. I'm riding with you. Let's figure out, how do we fix it? Let's figure out some steps that we take to get this thing right. So I'm always looking for a way to fix it. I'm always looking for a solution. And so that's instantly, I started thinking like, how can I fix this? That was my first thought. How can I make sure she's okay? How can I make sure that she has everything that she needs? How can we get rid of this? What can we do right now to get rid of it? But the reality being to set in is like, it's nothing that I could do. It's nothing that I could do as her husband to fix this. And that really like didn't sit well with me. You know what I mean? Like in that moment, I just felt so hopeless. I did feel hopeless. I ain't gonna lie to you. Yeah, I did feel hopeless, but I felt helpless because I felt like as a husband, as a man, as a leader of my family, like I was letting my wife down because I did not have a solution on how to fix it in that moment. And I felt like I was failing her. Like, just to be honest with y'all, man, like I felt like I had failed because I did not have a way to fix it. Man, and I don't want to get emotional talking about it because I ain't about to be on here crying. I've cried enough tears. We've cried our tears. And like I said, we just believe and know that God is a healer and he's going to heal. But I just felt so helpless in that moment, man. And that's literally like when the roller coaster of emotions really started, like the fear, the sadness, the anger. I mean, I was angry. I was very, very angry. I'm like, because she don't deserve this. And nobody deserves, to go through cancer, anything like that. Like nobody deserves that. So, but I was just so angry, man. And then the disappointment, I felt like I was just disappointed in myself because I felt like there was something that I could do and there was nothing that I could do. Yeah, the disappointment, the anxiety, bruh, the worry, the devastation, the rage. I mean, when I talk about being angry, I was angry. Then I felt like just the depression. I felt God had abandoned us, abandoned us. Yeah, because we had already been through so much. We had already lost so much from 2022 to, losing our best friends, right? We had lost our best friends. We had left our church. We had lost the community that we loved so much. I love those people, right? That was my second family. So to have to lose them, man, I felt like God was literally just like, he had abandoned us. That's how I felt. I felt powerless. I'm like, because God, we went through all that. We're now really starting to put our lives back together. We're putting the pieces of our lives back together and we're creating this new life without people, without this church, without this community that we once had that supported us. So now we're putting our lives back together. Now this, like, come on, man. Like, I felt like we were really in a good place. And then for this to hit and to happen, it's like, God, like, where are you? Like, have you left us? And those were just a few of the things that I felt in the moment. But I was just like, God, you can't be. Where are you? Like, where the heck are you, God? Because we were just dealt the biggest blow of our lives a few years ago. And now this? Come on, bruh. I like a refund. because this ain't the package that we signed up for. You know what I mean? And so as the days went on and we're crying and we're just trying to find like, okay, what does life look like after this? Like, how do we shift our lives? Because this is a major change. This is a major change in our lives to Randi, what she's going to have to go through, making sure that Avery's good, how I'm going to have to adjust my work schedule. It just changes your life. And like I said, we had already dealt with a major blow when we lost what I considered my second family, my best friends. You know, how that situation ended. Again, finding this news, having faith that God, knowing that God is a healer, but then also knowing that I'm in fear. I'm in so much fear. I'm so scared, like, because it's nothing that I can do to fix it. So I have really just begun to pray, just begin to really focus my mind and say, you know what? I know that there are things that I can't change. I know that there are things that are beyond my control, but the things that I can control, I'm going to control them. So I just begin to pray. I really begin like just to ask God, like, God, just calm my mind, calm my spirit, calm my heart, and direct me to something that's just going to help me find some peace right now, because I feel like our world is just upside down. I found myself in the story to where Jesus was brought the boy who needed deliverance. And so the boy's father, they brought the boy, and the boy's father said to him, he said to Jesus, if it's anything that you can do, take pity on us and help us. So this is what Jesus said to him. He said, first of all, he said, if you can, like, Jesus, what you mean if I can? You know, I'm Jesus. I can do all things. But then he said this, he said, all things are possible to him that believes. So that's what Jesus said to the boy's father. This is what the boy's father said. Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. I've heard that statement. I've heard it over and over and over. But then it really hit home because I said, God, I believe you. I'm believing for total healing for my wife. I'm believing that you're going to annihilate and destroy everything in her body that is not healthy. I'm believing that she's going to make a full recovery, God. I'm believing. But in that, Father, there are still some things in my heart that just don't believe because I'm human, right? I am a human being. So even in the boy's father's, in his unbelief, Jesus still healed the boy, right? So I found myself in the shoes of the father. I've been saying, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. And it really became the reality of two different worlds. It became the reality, like deep down in my spirit, I know that God is faithful. I know that I have faith that God could heal. I know that he's a healer, but the present circumstances don't look like it. It doesn't mean that you're less of a believer. It's not a knock on your faith. It's not a knock on what you believe God can do. But the reality is that we live in a world where we see circumstances, right? We see what's in front of us. And sometimes what's in front of us seems impossible, man. And because it seems impossible, it affects the way that we may look at it. When you see something in front of you and you see the circumstances and they seem impossible and you have doubts, you have fears in your mind, it is not a reflection of your faith. It is not a reflection of what you believe. It simply means that you are human. So I think that it is very, very important that we don't dismiss how we feel. We don't dismiss what we're going through just to look like superheroes, right? Just to look like these believers who are just super believers. I'm not a robot. Listen, I don't want to be looked at as a superhero believer because I just ignore all the feelings that I have. I can't do that. And especially in this moment, in this situation, right? I had ended up calling my mom the next day. So, you know, we get the news and me and Randi are sitting there and we're crying and just like, man, just a wave of emotions. We're crying. I had got off work, so it was late. It was late and I ended up taking a shower and I'm just sitting on the bed, right? You know, ready for bed in my drawers, just being honest. And so I had called my mom the next day and I told her, I said, Mom, like I was so distraught. Like I did not know what to do. I was literally just about to get in my car, in my drawers, and just drive to you and Dad because I needed y'all. Just be honest with you. Like, I wanted my mom in that moment. And it's funny because I'm like, man, I'm sitting here. I'm in my drawers. I don't care. The police pull me over. They're going to look at me like I'm crazy. But in that moment, man, I just wanted my mom. I just wanted to be comforted and to be consoled, right? I just wanted a hug from my mama. I'm a mama's boy. I ain't gonna hold you. Don't dismiss your feelings. Don't ignore how you feel in those moments. And if you're scared, if you're afraid, it's not a reflection of your faith. It's not a reflection of what you believe that God can do. It's just a reflection of, hey, I am human. I'm not a superhero believer. I'm not a robot believer. I'm not a person who ignores how I feel. I don't trust people who don't feel, right? I don't trust those type of people. I don't trust people who ignore their feelings. How can you have empathy and sympathy for others if you always tell them like their feelings don't matter? Do I have unbelief? Man, I'm not going to hold you. I am afraid. Yes, I have some unbelief because it's scary. It is a very scary thing. It's a very scary place to be in. But that unbelief does not take away from who I know God is. It doesn't take away from the fact that I know that God is a healer, that he is our provider. But it's a very scary place to be in. So yeah, fear and faith are coexisting in my life right now. Listen, the fact that we have doubts, the fact that we feel things that don't feel good, it does not take away from what God can do. And I keep saying that because I want us to understand that a lot of us grew up in spaces that told us not to feel, that told us that if you have faith and worry, then your faith, that worry is canceling out your faith. And so we've gone throughout our lives and we suppressed our feelings and pushed them deep down inside to look like these believers and to look like these superhero believers that say, no matter what it looks like, I trust God and my faith won't be moved. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you're human. Just like the boy's father who brought his son to Jesus to be healed. He said, God, I have faith. I believe, but help my unbelief. Did Jesus not heal the boy? The fact that the father did not believe did not take away from who Jesus was. And the fact that we have doubts, it does not take away from who God is in our lives. And I just hope and pray that we begin to lean more into our feelings and understand that, hey, I can be vulnerable. I can have doubt. I can have fear. I can have anxiety. Just because I have those things, it doesn't mean that I live in those feelings. It just means that I honor them, that they're valid, and they make me a human being. Jesus still healed him. That's what I like. It didn't matter that he had unbelief. Jesus still healed him. The father admitted that, hey, I have some feelings, I have some unbelief, and I need you in this moment, God, to help my unbelief. And I feel like in that moment when Jesus performed that miracle, that was helping the father's unbelief. It's like, it's days where I just sat and I asked God, why Randi? Like, seriously, like I asked God, I said, man, she does not deserve this. I sat. And even now, like I still sit, I'm like, God, like, why her? You know, she doesn't deserve it. You know, and some of y'all are like, why are you asking God questions? Why are you questioning God? I know that's a no-no. That's a big slap on the wrist to a lot of us. Do we really think that God can't handle how we feel? He can't handle our thoughts. He can't handle the questions that we have. Man, that is the furthest thing from the truth. God created us. His thoughts toward me outnumber the sand, meaning that, man, there is nothing that I can think that God cannot handle. There is nothing that I can ask that God cannot answer. The God who created me is not intimidated by my questions. The God who created you is not intimidated by your thoughts, by your feelings, by your doubts, by your fears. He is not intimidated by any of that because he created us, right? We have to stop living in this bubble where we feel like we can't ask God things or we can't go to God with our feelings. I think Jesus was the one who said, cast your burdens upon me. I think Jesus was the one who said that, to cast it all on him. So if Jesus told me to do that, I'm going to cast everything, my thoughts, my fears, my anxieties, my depression, my anger, everything I feel in that moment, I'm giving it to him because he said that he can handle it. He said, take upon him, his burden is light. He said his yoke is easy. This is what he said. So if he said that, I'm going to do what he told me to do. And I'm going to go to him with my questions because I know that he can handle it. I know that. I'm about to start preaching. I ain't preached in a real long time, and I'm about to start preaching. The more that I read this story, the man asking Jesus to help his unbelief and Jesus responding by healing his son, the more I read that, the more I was reassured that my feelings and emotions don't take away from God's ability to be God, right? So the more that I read that and the more that I just studied that, it reassured me that my feelings did not take away from God being able to be God. It does not take away from his ability. It does not make him less than God because I have doubts. Some people say this. Some people say that faith and fear cannot coexist. I can't say that I subscribe to that anymore. I say the complete opposite. I say that faith and fear can coexist and they will coexist. Faith is trusting God with my fears. Faith is trusting God with how I feel. Faith is trusting God in my anxiety. Faith is trusting God in my anger. Faith is trusting God in my depression. Come on. Faith is trusting God in my feelings, right? It's trusting God in all that. Walking in faith is not pretending that there is nothing wrong. Again, I'm not a robot. I'm not a superhero. I'm not this person who doesn't have feelings. I used to think like that. I used to think like I had to bottle it in and I just couldn't talk about it and I just couldn't show it. But that is not healthy. That is not conducive to a healthy environment, to a healthy human being. That's not conducive to my overall well-being. It's not conducive to my mental health. Come on, it's not conducive to any of that because bottling it up eventually is going to spill out. And when it spills out, it's not going to be good. Walking in faith is showing up with all my fears, is showing up with all my anxieties, is showing up with all my anger, is showing up with all my emotions. Because eventually, if you just bottle these things up, you become numb. I don't know how you can be numb and still feel for others and have compassion and empathy and sympathy for others if you're numb to your own feelings. It's impossible. I feel like I'm preaching and I don't know why. Walking in faith is showing up in the face of uncertainty. You know what I mean? That's for me. Again, that's what I'm learning, that my faith walk and my faith journey and how I'm viewing God and what God means to me and how God is in my world is that I'm able to show up even when I have uncertainty all around me. And that's one of the scariest places to be in, right? It's one of the scariest places to be because we want to know how things are going to turn out. We want to know that things are going to be okay, but that's not how life works. So walking in faith is showing up in my unbelief. And I know that that's hard. So for some people, that's hard to say. For some people, that's hard to hear. But for me, that's a part of my healing journey. That's a part of my walk. Come on, man. I know we want to know the outcome. I know that we want certainty, but sometimes, listen, we're not going to get that. The problem I have with uncertainty is that I start to create all kinds of outcomes. I start to write all these stories and I start to say all these things and rehearse all these things that God never said to me. Again, I begin to create these scenarios. I begin to create these outcomes. I begin to create all these different types of realities in my mind. And God's like, I never said any of that. That's the problem that I have with uncertainty, because since I don't know how it's going to end, I start to create endings. The endings that I'm creating in my mind, they are the furthest thing from what God said. It's the furthest thing from faith. Come on, it's the furthest thing from knowing that God is a healer. It's the furthest thing from knowing that God is a provider. I begin to create the worst case scenario in my mind. The world that I'm living in is one thing. My reality is, hey, we got some news that we didn't want. That's the reality that I'm living in. But I also live in a space where I know that God is a healer. So now I'm just waiting for what I believe God has already done to be made manifest here on earth. Because if the Bible says that the kingdom of heaven is within me, if the kingdom of heaven is within me, this is what Jesus said, then I have the ability to look within myself and say, I want the kingdom of heaven to manifest on earth, right? The kingdom of heaven that is within me, that I have access to. Come on. If I pray and if I believe and I know that in the spirit that it's already been done, now I just need the spirit to collide with the reality here on earth to make that healing happen and make that healing manifest, right? So if the kingdom of heaven is within me, come on, I don't have to wait. I don't need a pastor. I don't need a prophet. I don't need an apostle. I don't need anybody to go and pray for me. I can pray myself. I can lay hands on my wife myself, and I can say, God, manifest the kingdom of heaven that you said that is within us. Make that be manifested on earth. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's within us. So I don't have to wait for heaven to come down because heaven is already within me. Healing is already within me. I have access to healing. So because I'm writing all these stories in my mind about things that God never said, I'm creating realities that have the worst case scenario and the worst case outcome. I'm creating more anxiety within me and God wants to give me peace. But because God says this, he says, I want to give you peace that passes all your understanding. This is what he says. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have anxiety. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have unbelief. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have fear. It simply means that your faith shows up in those moments. Your faith still allows you to show up. It doesn't make you bypass what you're going through, but you still show up. I can say this in the face of uncertainty, that I'm finding peace just being present with Randi. We ain't talking about nothing. We not going over nothing, just sitting with her. I'm finding peace. Just being in her presence, I'm finding peace. Not trying to fix it, not trying to tell her that everything is going to be okay, not trying to find a solution, not trying to say, hey, this is what we need to do, but just sitting there and knowing that we have each other in that space of uncertainty is bringing truly a peace that passes all my understanding. I'm living in the space of uncertainty, but if I trust God, then I know that he's going to work this thing out, man. I know that he is. So, I think that is growth for me, again, because I'm a fixer, right? And I've noticed that however unintentional it may be, that I can become insensitive to what people are going through because I just pass everything that you said and I'm solution oriented. Like my dad is a fixer. Like my dad can fix anything with his hands. You give my dad a paperclip, some tin foil and a piece of bubble gum and that man is going to make a car. And so I may not have gotten that aspect as far as like to naturally be able to fix things, but emotionally and spiritually, like I'm always looking for solutions, right? So I picked up that trait to want to be a fixer and I'm growing in that because I never want to make somebody feel like they don't matter. I never want to make somebody feel like their problem is small. So I got like some we got our go-to sayings and our catalog of comfort, and I'm about to retire some of those. The big one is that I'm retiring is everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. But when you're in the worst season of your life, the last thing that you want to hear is somebody telling you everything happens for a reason. Living in this space now and just trying to be more sensitive and trying to be more attentive to what Randi may be going through and what others may be facing as well. So being more sensitive and more attentive to how they're feeling, I'm retiring the phrase of everything happens for a reason when somebody is going through a challenging season. A person who's hurting is not trying to find the reason. They just trying to find comfort. Now, maybe after I go through it and I've healed through it or I'm in a better space where I can talk through it, maybe then I'll try to look back and say, what was the reason? But in that moment, man, I am not trying to find out the reason. I'm trying to find comfort. Where can I find a safe space, right? Another one, God is testing you. I'm definitely throwing that one into the fire. Man, I'm tossing that into the sea and I want it to drown and to never come back, right? Now, this is just me, but I no longer want to be considered. I don't want the Job story no more. I was taught that the more you go through, the more God can use you. And the more that you go through, then the more God, it's going to be something great on the other side. I don't want to I don't want to have to lose my entire world so that God can know that he can trust me. I don't want that. That's me. Listen, that is me. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't sign up to be God's strongest soldier in this season. I'm formally submitting my resignation to that portion of the faith. I don't want to hear God is testing you as we're walking through some of the toughest times in our lives. Why? Why do you have to say that? I don't need to hear that. That is, and I apologize to people, like all jokes aside, like I've been doing a lot of reflecting and I do want to apologize and say, man, I'm sorry for saying that when people have been going through some of the worst things in their life. Like That is so insensitive to say. God is testing you. And I just got fired from the only job that I have. And now I don't know how I'm going to be able to make ends meet. But no, God is testing you. A person who's hurting does not want to hear that they're being tested. And I'm going to say this, and don't take it the wrong way, but we got to stop reading ourselves into certain stories when we're not Job. I'm not Job. I don't want to be Job. I didn't sign up to be Job. That's not my testimony right now, that God is testing me. I'm not there. I'm not there. God is not testing my wife. He's not testing Randi. I'm not there. And I'm telling you, man, if people come up to me and they're saying these things, I'm going to have to kindly reject that. Like, no, that's not the season that my family is in. God is not testing us. I'm telling you right now, y'all, you hurting. You going through probably one of the worst times in your life, and somebody want to tell you that God is testing you. Like, why? God is testing me? I just want y'all to know that when I'm going through something, I want to feel comfort. I want to know God is comforting me in my time of trouble. I tend to think of myself as a good father. I tend to think of myself as a present father. I tend to think of myself as a father who tries his best to do the right thing by my child. And as a good father, listen, as a good father, I cannot imagine testing my child by inflicting pain upon her. I could not imagine me testing Avery by putting her through the worst time in her life and say, I'm just testing you to see how much you love me. I can't see myself as a good father putting Avery through the worst pain in her life, and then my response is to her, oh, I was just testing you to see if you were going to stay faithful to me. I was just testing you to see how much you loved me as my child. I don't see God that way anymore. Y'all can argue in the comments. I don't see God that way anymore. Life happens to us all, but as a good father, as a good father, as a good father, y'all know the song, you're a good father. As the good father that we say that God is, I just don't understand, especially being a father, why a good father would inflict pain upon his children just to test their love, to test their loyalty, to test if they truly love him. Like, if y'all saw me inflicting pain on Avery, if you saw me doing something that would cause her pain, if you saw me doing anything that would cause her pain, you wouldn't say I was a good father. You would say I'm a terrible father. If I told you, oh, I'm just doing this to see how much Avery loves me, you would say that that man is a terrible father. Y'all gonna call CPS. Y'all gonna get on Facebook. Y'all gonna talk about me. Y'all gonna dog me out. Y'all gonna do all those things and say that how terrible of a father I am. So if I look at my relationship with God as the way that I look at my relationship with a father to his daughter or a father to his son, as a father to his children, I have a hard time now believing, in order for God to see how much I love him, that he has to inflict pain upon my life to say, oh, I knew that he loved me. Like, man, I don't see God that way anymore. That's me. You know, I don't subscribe to that, because as a father, man, as a father who loved, I would do anything for my child. I would do anything for Avery. And I mean that. I would do anything for her. So as a father who I consider myself a good father, I will not put my child in harm's way or put my child through the worst pain of her life just to see how much she loves me. That, if you subscribe to that, that's you. I don't. I view him as a father who is going to walk with me through my pain, who's going to be there to comfort me through my pain. When life happens, I don't look at it as God is trying to test me or trying to prove something. I look at it another way for God to show me how he comforts me, how he loves us, how he's there with us, how he guides us through it, how we can find peace and safety in him. You know, even in the face of all the things that we're going through, that I still should be able to find some type of joy in God. Because when Avery is having the worst day of her life, when Avery is having a terrible, terrible day, when she went to school today and she didn't get that extra milk, when she didn't get a chance to finish her whole snack and that just ruined her whole day, The fact that when I come home or when she calls me on FaceTime, that she finds joy when she sees me, that she doesn't look at me as someone who is causing pain and someone who is causing hurt, but she looks at me and she finds comfort. That's how I want to look at God. You know, it's not always easy, and I don't choose joy every day, but I know that every day that he walks with me, that I can find comfort in that. We're walking our healing out together. And that's the beautiful journey about, whole, healed, and healthy, is that you see it in real time. You see the ups, you see the downs, you see the roller coaster, but we're walking this thing out together. We are praying with and for all those who are fighting this fight, and we are praying for those who may have unfortunately lost someone to this disease. We just continue to pray that God will continue to comfort, he will continue to give you peace, and that he will continue to surround you with his love, because we all need that love. If you like to support, you can grab a hoodie or a t-shirt from our website. But more importantly, we just want to make sure that we spread awareness and that we keep showing up for the ones that we love, right? You don't have to go buy anything. This is by no means a sales pitch, but if you would like to support, please go and stop by my website, www.wh2, and you can support by getting a hoodie, a t-shirt, or a hat. But most importantly, like I said, we just want to keep spreading awareness. We want to keep sending love. We want to keep sending our prayers and standing with all those who are fighting this fight. And so as we close, man, I just want to say, as we open up the altar, as I like to call it, the Come to the Altar segment, that I just want to invite you to bring all your cares, all your questions, all your emotions, all your feelings. I want you to bring that to the altar. No matter what you are going through, just know that it's not too much for God. Many of us are like the man who said, "Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief." Again, your unbelief is not a reflection of your faith. It's just simply a sign that you are human. And one thing that I know, that God not only heals our bodies, but he also heals our hearts. So we're not rushing through this. We're not rushing through our healing process. We're not rushing through our journey. We're walking through it together. And we want to walk through it whole. We want to walk through it healed. And we want to walk through it healthy. So from my family to yours, I appreciate your love. I appreciate your support. I'm praying for you. We're sending our love. We're sending our prayers. Again, man, we love y'all. Until next time, be whole, be healed, and be healthy. I love you.